So today is hamstring focus. Now, I know some of you do legs, you know, you'll hit the quads and hamstrings all at once, and that's great. But for me, one of my main focuses here is growing my hamstrings out. I want that big, I guess you can call it kind of teardrop from the bottom whenever I go into my side chest or even, you know, my back double bicep pose as being a bodybuilder. You want that width, you want that thickness of the hamstring. So for me, it's an area of I guess you could say of importance that I want to grow and I want to focus on. So today, that's the main goal here, is to really fatigue and focus strictly on those hamstrings, and I'll do quads separately on their own. So I typically go in the gym, we're gonna warm up, we're gonna hit some seated hamstring curls to get things activated, anywhere from 4 to 5 sets. And then just depending on how we feel, we'll move on and you know, kill it. So that's the day. Right now, working the hamstring. All right, now the leg press machine, typically known for squats, but again, depending on how you position your feet, you actually can hit quite a bit of your hamstrings and your glutes. So that's what I'm really focusing on. You'll see where my foot position is. It's pretty high up on the leg press machine. Something else that I'm doing is called blood flow restriction. So I took my knee wraps that you typically have when you're going heavy with squats or deadlifts or something of that nature, and I wrap them around my thighs, tight as I possibly can. Now, you don't want to keep them on longer than about 15 minutes maybe without loosening them up and putting them back on. But what they do is, again, it's going to restrict that blood flow. So first couple sets you want to get just to get the blood pumping in there. And then your next set is going to feel like you got 10 times the weight that you started with. I mean, it's pretty intense. So check it out. So from here, in this position here, again, I got my heels pretty high up on the platform to put more flexion and more emphasis on my hamstrings. Now I'm just waiting about 60 seconds before I go on my next set. So here we're gonna go more volume, more high repetition, about 15 to 20 reps for the first set. The second set, I mean, again, it's gonna feel pretty intense. So the goal is to get at least 10 reps on this next one. But again, it's gonna feel twice as heavy as that first set did, because I'm keeping my legs positioned where the blood has nowhere to go but to stay in my legs. And here we go on our second. Another reason, a couple reasons that you could do blood flow restriction is really good if you have a nagging injury, if you're really in pain, it hurts. So actually right now I'm dealing with some lower back pain. So instead of loading 20, 25 plates on the leg press machine, I can put 10 or 12 on and get the same intensity I would as if I had 20 plates on there. So again, if you're dealing with any kind of lagging injury, whether it's your legs, your back, or your arms, you can do this. So you can do blood flow restriction for curls, for triceps, just by wrapping them around your arm tightly enough. But again, you wanna be careful. You don't want it too tight where your limbs start to turn black and blue, right? But you do want enough pressure on there where you can definitely feel the intensity, the difference when you start to do the sets. So keep that in mind. So right now I'm hitting stiff legged deadlifts. Now, the key point there is, again, stiff legs. You wanna lock your legs out and really extend your glutes, stick your butt back, keep the weight on your heels. And when you come up, you wanna really, again, use those hamstrings and glutes, your hips, to fire back up. It's really important, again, that you just take those dumbbells straight down and keep your back as straight as possible. All right, it's a way to help prevent any back injuries, and again, to make it really hamstring and glute intense. All right. element there, man, is to keep the weight on your heels. So as that butt goes back, you almost feel like you're off on your toes. It makes a tremendous difference. You get a lot more stretch in the hamstring, and the intensity is just, again, much more. Now, some of you might be asking, well, why the hell are you doing these if you got a lower back injury? Again, it's just a slight, I don't know what it is, but to answer your question, I'm a little crazy. I'm a little stupid. I probably shouldn't be. That's why I went to go grab my belt, precautionary. But yeah, so anyway, there's your stiff leg deadlifts, guys. You know, anywhere from 3 to 4 sets. Sometimes I'll go high volume, but I typically try to do it light, you know, low repetitions, maybe a little bit heavier if my back is really bothering me. Here, we got the single leg deadlifts, all right, using the kettlebell. Same as before, basically just wanna make sure that you're really using those hips, glutes, and hamstrings to fire back up. It's always good to do an isolated movement, so that's what I wanted to finish with. And I superset it with single leg glute bridges. Now the key there, again, is to squeeze when you bring your hips up. Squeeze your hams, squeeze your glutes. It's really intense. And as you can see, for the deadlifts, I'm not using much weight. And for the glute bridges, I'm not using any weight. I superset the two to make it high volume. The biggest key there is just to go to failure. Again, because I'm having a little bit of lower back pain. I didn't want to do a lot of weight, so I upped the volume. Just go until it's intense, guys, until you can't go anymore, and you'll get just as good as a pump as if you had 100, 200 pounds in your lap. So we killed it today. You know, again, the focus was hamstrings, and that's what we did. We absolutely destroyed the hamstrings. It was more so a high volume day. As I went along, I just wanted to see how my back was gonna feel and how it was gonna hold up. So some days you'll catch me in the videos and we'll go super heavy, complex lifts, deadlifts and some other things. Maybe even a little bit higher with the leg press. But today, again, my focus was, 1, I wanted to be safe. 2, I wanted to destroy my hamstring. So it was more high repetition. So going forward, guys, stay tuned, stay focused. I'm gonna have a lot of volume, a lot of content coming your way. And as I go along, I wanna share content that's gonna help you become bigger, stronger, and a better bodybuilder.